Congratulations. I rejoice with everyone on the start of a new year, year 2021. 2020 was a very harsh but remarkable year. With you all our partners in growth, we triumph over the hurdles that later all our paths. On behalf of the board, I say thank you to all our stakeholders that help us in attaining new heights. I particularly appreciate the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, a passionate, committed, and transformational leader. Thank you for the giant leaps we made, especially through Eco-Excel initiative. I equally thank our amiable and pleasant Deputy Governor, Dr. Obafemi Kadri Hamzat, for his immense support for all the activities of the board. I thank the Honorable Commissioner of Education, Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo, for her remarkable leadership role in the sector. To the Executive Secretary, Dr. Hamid Boboyi, and management staff of UBEC, ministries, departments, and agencies in the state that partner with us to ensure the smooth running of the basic education sector, I say thank you. To our corporate friends who stood by us and the people of Lagos State despite the harsh economic realities, I express our heartfelt gratitude. I'm particularly pleased with all our private sector partners in the recently launched Project Zero initiative. I cannot forget our wonderful teachers and parents who ensure that our children continue to learn even when our schools were shut. My sincere appreciation to the entire management and staff of LASUBEB and the education family for their hard work and commitment all year round. Let us get back to work with a renewed energy. Together we can achieve more. I wish everyone a happy, healthy, and prosperous 2021. Ìgbéga ìpínlẹ̀ Èkó, àjùmọ̀ṣe ni o.
Hello pupils, you are welcome to another wonderful edition of your favorite program, The Classroom in Your Home, a program organized by the Lagos State Government and packaged by the Lagos State Universal Basic Education Board, LASUBEB. The aim is to ensure that you are academically engaged in addition to what you're learning in school or even while you're at home. I am Auntie Fumi, your English Studies teacher. And as usual, I have with me the wonderful teachers.
Hello children, I am your mathematics teacher, Uncle Agbaje, but you know me as the Mathemagician.
Uncle Popo is here as usual, your general studies teacher.
And we also have our sign language interpreter, Uncle Wale, in the house. Together, we are bringing the classroom into your home. Please stay tuned. Hello pupils, you're welcome to Auntie Fumi's class. Our focus today in English Studies lesson will be parts of speech. Yes, we'll be looking at parts of speech today. Our learning objective for this lesson is as follows. By the end of today's lesson, you should be able to list the parts of speech, and you should also be able to identify the parts of speech in any given sentence. You should be able to list the parts of speech, and you should be able to identify the parts of speech in any given sentence. Now, let's begin. Every sentence you write or speak in English includes words that fall into some of the 9 parts of speech. What I'm trying to say in essence is that there are 9 parts of speech in English, and every sentence you make, either in writing or that you speak out, definitely falls into any of the 9 parts of speech. Now, let's talk about the 9 parts of speech. Let's talk about the 9 parts of speech. Are we ready? Okay. There are 9 parts of speech. Number 1, noun. I believe you're saying it after me. Noun, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions, articles or determinants, and lastly, interjections. We're going to read them one after the other. We're going to say the 9 parts of speech one after the other. Are we ready? Let's go. Nouns, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions, articles or determinants, and interjections. Good job, you. Now we're going to look at these 9 parts of speech one after the other. Are we ready? Okay. Now, what is a noun? I know you know it. I am proud of you. Well done. Nouns are the names of a person, place, thing, animal, or idea. We've said that over and over again. Examples: Fumi, yes. Deji, Ayo, Wasiu, yes. Those are names of persons, places. Ikeja, London, Ilesha, Badagry, and so on. That's talking about places. Things: pencil, yeah, spoon, pen, and so on. Animals: good job, you. Dog, yes. Elephant, lion, and so on. Well done. Now, the second part of speech is pronoun. Pronoun, yes. What are pronouns? Pronoun stands in for nouns in a sentence. Pronouns stand in for nouns in a sentence. They are words used instead of nouns. In our last lesson, we looked at pronouns. So we are defining it again. Pronouns are words used instead of nouns. Examples: I, you, he, she, it, ours, them, who, which, anybody, ourselves, and so on. Are we together? We have so many examples of pronouns. The third part of speech is verb. Verb, yes. What's a verb? A verb is an action word. Okay, good. Verbs are action words that tells what happens in a sentence. Verbs are action words. Verbs tells what happens in a sentence. Example: sing, dance, play, eat, and so on. Verbs are words that shows or that tells what happens in a sentence. The next one is adjective. Are you taking notes? Are we together? Well done. Adjective. What are adjectives? Adjectives describe or qualify nouns and pronouns. Examples: hot, lazy, beautiful, tall, short, and so on. Adverb. What does an adverb do? Adverb describe verbs, adjectives, and even other adverbs. Adverb describes verbs, adjectives, and even other adverbs. Adverbs specify when, where, how, and why something happened, and to what extent or how often. Examples of adverbs are softly, lazily, often, only, hopefully, sometimes, and so on and so forth. Are we together? Okay, let's look at another part of speech: preposition. Yes, preposition. What does prepositions do? A preposition show a preposition show relationship between a noun or pronoun and the other words in a sentence. Prepositions show relationship between a noun or pronoun and the other words in a sentence. What are examples of prepositions? Up, over, against, by, for, into, and so on. Now let's look at another part of speech, conjunction. Conjunction. Conjunction join words, phrases, and clauses in a sentence. Conjunction join words, phrases, and clauses in a sentence. When you have maybe two sentences or phrases and you want to join the sentences or the sentence as to be one, then you need a conjunction. Examples of conjunctions are and, but, or, so, yet, with, and so on. So, conjunction join words, phrases, and clauses in a single sentence. Another part of speech is interjection. Interjection. Interjection often carries strong emotion, conveys strong reactions. It carries strong emotions and conveys strong reaction. Interjections are expressions that can stand on their own or be contained within sentences. Examples are words like ha, ouch, whoops. All those words that carry strong emotions or convey strong reaction, they are known as interjections. Are we together? Well done. Now let's look at articles and determiners. Articles and determiners. Articles and determiners function like adjectives by modifying nouns. Articles and determiners function like adjectives by modifying nouns. They specify and identify nouns. I'm talking about articles and determiners. They specify and identify nouns. Let's look at examples of articles. A, an, they. Examples of determiners. This, T-H-E-S-E, this, that, those, enough, much, few, which, what. Those are determinants. Don't forget I said articles and determinants function like adjectives by modifying nouns. They also specify and identify nouns. We've been able to look at the 9 parts of speech. Yes. How many of you can tell me one after the other? Nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs. What again? Interjection, conjunction, articles and determinants. What again? Good job, you. Well done. That means you are giving me your full attention. But then, let's see how attentive you have been in the course of this lesson. It's time for evaluation. Activity time. Group the following words into the part of speech they belong. Group the following words into the part of speech they belong. Here are the words. Hooray, they, T-H-E, cook, Femi, art, they, because, beautifully, small. In the next 40 seconds, you will tell me what parts of speech or where they belong in the order of parts of speech. Your time starts now. Have you been able to group those words? Did you enjoy doing it at all? Of course, they are simple. Yes, very simple. Now, let's do the correction together. You were asked to group the following words into the part of speech they belong. Hooray! Interjection. Did you get that? Well done, because it carries strong emotion. They, THE, that's an article. Cook, that's action, a verb. Femi, that's the name of a person, and that is a noun. Well done. At, that's a preposition. They, THEY, determiner. Yes, it's a determiner. Number 7, because. It's used to join phrases or clauses in a sentence. So, it's a conjunction. Did you get that too? Well done. Beautifully. Beautifully. That's an adverb. Yes. And lastly, small. That's an adjective. 9 out of 9. Are you sure? Oh, I am proud of you. You are smart children. And I celebrate you with a cheer. Good job, you. Now for your homework. Please group the following words into the part of speech they belong. River, drive, few, heavily, although, eat, across, and ha. So you have 20 seconds to capture the assignment, and I'll be back to sign out. Well done. Having copied the assignment, I am expecting you to submit your assignment as soon as possible. Don't forget to indicate your name, your school, your class, and your local government education authority. That is the only way through which you can be identified and rewarded accordingly. So, that's it for today. We have come to the end of the English Studies lesson for today. We looked at the parts of speech, the 9 parts of speech, and I had fun learning with you. It's time for me to hand you over now to the mathematician, Uncle Agbaje, for another well-packaged mathematics lesson. Before I go, I've always told you, Auntie Fumi is always proud of you. Bye.
Hello, children. You are welcome to this segment of the program, The Classroom in Your Home. It is mathematics time, and that means it is time to have some fun. I am Uncle Agbaje. In our last lesson in mathematics, we examined the concept of volume as the number of unit cubes that you can find in a solid shape. Then we went ahead to look at how to find the volume of cuboids and cubes. Today, we will be looking at something related to that. But then you know that today is Monday, and we always begin with that 1-minute exercise, the Math-a-thon. So you have your pens ready and you have your paper ready. Let's see how many of these sums you can get right in 1 minute. Begin. Alrighty then, 1 minute is up. Were you able to do all? Well, let's see whether your answers are correct. Give yourself ticks. First one, 75 plus 62 is 137. 48 plus 43 plus 86 is 129. Then you have 117, 100, 92, 95, 81, 90, 18, 48, 35, and 63. Did you get all correctly? Well, good job you, my friend. You are definitely improving. Now let's move on to the correction to the last homework. We'll be looking at the correction to the last homework. There you were asked to find the volumes of these shapes. Let's look at the first one. The length is 4.5 units. The breadth is 15 units. When we multiply that, we'll get the number of cubes at the bottom. Then we can multiply it by 10, which is the height, and that tells us that there are 10 layers. So the volume is the area of the top times the height, or the area of the bottom times the height. That is the length times the breadth, then times the height, and that is 4.5 times 15 times 10. And when you multiply 4.5 by 15 by 10, well, 4.5 times 10 will give you 45. And when you multiply 45 by 15, you will get 675. And that means that in this cuboid, there will be 675 unit cubes. I do not want to waste too much time multiplying because I trust that you must have done the due diligence with this. Let's check out the next one. Really, when you multiply 15 by 15 by 15, you get 3,375. But because there is a decimal, a digit after the decimal point here, digit after the decimal point here, and another digit after the decimal point here, altogether there are 3 digits after the decimal point. So you have to put 3 digits at the back of the decimal point. And that's how we arrive at 3.375 cubic meters. Did you get this correctly? Excellent job, you, my friend. I'm sure that you did. Well, for those that did not place the decimal point well, no problem. With practice, you get better. But I'll still celebrate you with a chair. Now, moving on to today's learning objectives. What you will be able to do by the end of the day, you should be able to relate the volume of cylinders to the volume of cuboids. Today, we'll be looking at the volume of cylinders and how to find the volume. We should also be able to calculate the volume of cylinders when you know the radius of the cylinder. And finally, you should be able to calculate the volume of cylinders when you know the diameter. Of course, you know that you just have to take half of the diameter and you get the radius. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just begin. Now, this is a cylinder, and we need to know how many cubes are in the cylinder. But the point you need to start asking yourself is, can I arrange a cube inside a cylinder? Well, before we know how many cubes goes inside the cylinder, inside the cylinder rather, this is the first layer, and that one layer is 1 unit, remember. So we bring out the 1 layer and we turn it this way, and we see that the cylinder, of course, the cross section is a circle. So we need to know how many squares are here. Now, some full squares are there, but some are not complete squares. We have to rearrange, just like we did when we were trying to find the area of a circle, and then we'll be able to know exactly how many number of squares. But do you remember that if you want to know the number of squares that a plane shape has, it is the same thing as finding the area? Exactly. So instead of counting the number of squares for this circle or worrying about which one you would add to which one to form a square, just find the area of the circle, and that will tell you the exact number of squares for the first layer. Then the height will tell you how many layers, and you can multiply. So again, what you need to do is that the number of cubes in 1 layer is the same thing as the area. So you need to find the area of the circle at the top or at the bottom, and that will give you the number of squares in 1 layer, cubes in 1 layer. Then you find out how many layers that you're going to have, and then you will get. So you can see here, if we're able to know for 1 layer, then we know 2 layers, 3 layers, 4 layers, 5 layers, 6 layers, until we meet up with the number of layers of cubes that will be in the cylinder. So what we will be doing, my friend, is to find the area of the top and then multiply it by the height, which is the number of layers of the cylinder. So the number of cubes in the whole cylinder then depends on the number of unit layers that make up the height, and the number of cubes in the whole cylinder is therefore the top area of the top or the base. They are the same thing because a cylinder is a prism, top and bottom are the same thing. Then you multiply that by the height. It's as simple as that. Let's see. So the area will now be the circle at the top is arrived at, the area of that circle is arrived at using pi times radius times radius. That's the area of a circle. Do you remember that? Okay, so we know the number of squares at the top or cubes at the first layer by multiplying pi by the radius by the radius. Or we can write that as pi r squared. R times r is r raised to the power of 2. Now, therefore, the volume of the cylinder will now be that area of the top times the height. And we can write that as pi r squared times height or pi r squared height. And the r, whenever you see it, it means radius. And when you see r raised to the power of 2, that means radius times the radius. Then the h means the height of the cylinder. So keep this formula in mind. It's quite intuitive, really. Just know the number of cubes at the first layer and multiply by the height. But we can't know the number of cubes if we don't know the area of that circle. We'll be working with this in subsequent examples. Let's say, find the volume of this cylinder. And that means find out how many unit cubes can fill up this cylinder. Not to worry, my friend. We only need to know the number of cubes that form the first layer. And that is to find the area of the circle at the top. And so, the volume is the area of the base or the top times the height. And that is pi r squared for the area of the circle at the top, then times the number of layers, which is the height. And so in this case, the radius is 10 meters. Pi is always pi, 22 over 7 or 3.14. In this case, we are using 22 over 7. So pi, this is it. Radius squared means radius times radius, and that is 10 meters times 10 meters. Then we must remember to multiply by the height, and that will give us the number of cubes altogether. This first 3 terms only gives us the first layer, multiplied by the height, which is 14 meters, as you can see on the diagram here. That means that there are 14 layers of that cube, so we multiply by 14 over m. So let's just simplify this. Once you're able to interpret your work to this point, you are home free. Just simplify and tidy up your answer. The most important thing is to know which one is the radius and which one is the height, then you multiply across. So working with this, now we can see that 7 goes here 1, 7 doesn't go here, but it goes in 14 2 times, and that is that. So we have 22 times 2, which is 44, 44 times 10, then times another 10, which is 4, 4, 0, 0. Just add 2 zeros, and that is 4,400 meter cubes. And that means that in this cylinder, you can arrange 4,400 cubes, and it will fit in perfectly. Let's just check that our answer is correct. It's 4,400 cubic meters. Observe what we did. We found the area of the top, which will tell us the number of cubes in one layer, then multiply by the number of layers, which is corresponding to the height, and we'll get the number of cubes. Okay, I think that you are ready for one of your own. The trick to doing this is not to mindlessly put the formula in your head. Rather, is to think about it. I want to find the number of square cubes at the top, and that's by finding the area of the top. Then I multiply by the number of layers, and you will always get your final answer. The same trick works for the cube, the cuboid. It will work for this cylinder. Find the volume of this cylinder. I'll give you 1 minute 30 seconds. Begin. Alrighty then. I hope you made some progress, and I hope that some of you arrived at your answer. Let's just get right into it. To find the volume of this is to find the area of the top, and that gives you the number of cubes at the top. And how many layers are there? Did you say 11? Yes, there are 11 layers. So we need to find the number of cubes at the top, and that is the area of the top, then multiply by 11. And that is base area times height, or top area times height, whichever one. The top and base are the same thing. Base area times height. So in this case, the base or the top is a circle, and the area will be pi r squared, then multiply by the height. And so the pi is 22/7. The radius is 7. The radius is still 7. That is r times r, radius times radius. Then there are 11 layers, so we'll multiply by 11. Okay, so let's just simplify this. 7 goes here 1, 7 goes here 1, and that is it. 1, 1, 1 in the denominator, not too much problem. We only need to multiply 22 by 7 by 11. So let me see. 7 times 11 is 77. Then I will need to multiply that 77 with 22. So let's just do that on our workboard over there. Okay, 77 times 22. This should be a breeze. 7, 7, 2, 2. Put a line between the numbers and put diagonals in between the boxes. 7 times 2 is 14. 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 Then we had the diagonals. 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 plus 4 is 9. 1 plus 4 is 5 plus 1. That is 6. And then we have 1 here. So we get 1694. So 77 times 22 is 1694. Okay, so that should be our final answer. Of course, that is our final answer, and I'm sure that that is what you got as well. That means that in this cylinder you can fit in 1694 unit cubes that the sides measure 1 centimeter each. That is what it means. Now, before we go, we'll just examine a variant of the problem, and that is when you're given the diameter. Okay, so the process is still the same. When you want to find the number of cubes at the top, you will need to find the area of the top. To find the area of the top of a cylinder, which is a circle, do you need the diameter? Of course, you don't need the diameter. So what do? You need to divide the diameter into 2 to get the radius. So in this case, the diameter is 18 meters. We have to divide it into 2 to get the radius. So the radius is half of the diameter, and that is 9 meters, because when you divide 18 into 2, you get 9. And this is the radius that we need to find the number of cubes at the top. So to find the number of cubes at the top, that is pi r squared. Then we multiply that by the height, and that there are 21 layers here. So we say pi r squared for the number of cubes at the top times the height, which is the number of layers, and that is 22/7. The radius is 9. The second radius is also 9, and then the height is 21, and this is what we simplify. So when you get to this point, you are almost home. 7 divides here 1, 7 divides here 3, and we have 1, 1, 1, 1 in the denominator. And so we have to multiply all these numbers, 22 times 9 times 9 times 3. Let's look for a simple way to do it. 22 times 3 is going to give us 66. 9 times 9 is 81. Now we have to multiply 81 by 66. So let's just do that on our board here. 81 times 66. So we'll draw a box. 81, 66. Put a line between the numbers and draw diagonals in the boxes. 1 times 6 is 6, so we write 06. 1 times 6 is 6, so we write 06. 8 times 6 is 48. 8 times 6 is 48. Then we had along the diagonals 6. 8 plus 6 is 14. Regroup 1. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 plus 4 is 13. Write 3, regroup 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. So our final answer is 5346. And I believe that should be our final answer too. At the other end, 5,300, and of course the number of cubes that can fill up this volume, this cylinder is 5,346 cubic meters. Now, meter cubes. Now, be careful when you get to this kind of problem. Remember that you only need the cylinder, the radius of the cylinder, and not the diameter. Mathematics is not about mindlessly applying the formula, but to understand what you really want to do. So what we want to do in summary is that we want to find the number of cubes that fill up a cylinder. We need to know the number of cubes at the top. We'll get that with the area of the circle at the top. Then we multiply it with the number of layers, and the number of layers is given by the height, and that should give us the volume of the cylinder. Now, for your own personal practice, you have your assignment coming right up. You have to find the volume of these cylinders, and when you're doing it, take care. This one has the diameter, so you have to use the radius. This one, the radius is already given. I'll give you 30 seconds to capture this, and I'll be right back. Alrighty then, I believe that you have copied the assignment. I will be on hand in the next lesson to run us through how it is done. Practice, practice, practice. That, my friend, is the mother of perfection. We have come to the end of the maths class for today, but do not go away, because Uncle Popo will be here with the general studies lesson, which promises to be interesting. Till I come your way in the next class, remain wonderful mathemagicians. Bye-bye now.
Hello pupils, you are welcome to General Studies class. I am Uncle Popo. Uncle Popo is here.
I am also here.
Brilliant. We are here together.
100% attention.
Excellent. 100% attention is what I want you to give me in today's lesson. Our subject for today is basic science and technology. In basic science and technology, we have a very simple and interesting topic today. But before that, let me quickly summarize all what we have learned on the topic energy. You were taught energy, conversion of energy last lesson, but before we discussed energy, the definition of energy as the ability to do work, the different forms of energy where you were given mechanical energy, electrical energy, light energy, thermal energy known as heat energy, solar energy, and chemical energy. And you were also taught conversion of energy, a conversion of energy from electrical energy to heat energy, and so on. So all that we have learned on the topic energy. Today we want to move further to learn heat and temperature. That's the topic. Say that, heat and temperature. Say that. But before we go into today's lesson, so I have just few questions to ask you, and I want you to answer it immediately. The first question, define heat. Say your answer. Good. The second question is this, what is temperature? Quickly say your answer. Brilliant one. And what is the difference between heat and temperature? Say your answer too. Great. What are the sources of heat? Great. Some could attempt the question, some could not find answers to those questions. In today's lesson, we shall treat and get to know the answers to all the questions I have asked you. Learning objectives. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to, 1, define heat and temperature, and you should be able to state the differences between heat and temperature. Heat. Heat is a form of energy. It's a form of what? It's a form of energy. And it is known as what? Thermal energy. You know, you were taught this in one of the lessons. Heat is a form of energy. We can detect it when a cold substance gradually becomes hot as it is placed in contact or close to the source of heat. We can detect it when a cold substance gradually becomes hot as it is placed in contact or close to the source of heat. Now, take for instance your water, whether bottled water or sachet water. When you place it close to the source of heat, maybe in the sun, after some minutes you see that the coldness will gradually lose and it will get starting hot. So that's what we are talking about when talking about heat. What are the common sources of heat? In the question I asked you, sources of heat, so let's look at the sources of heat. The first one is the sun. Say that, the sun. Heat from the sun can be used for drying clothes or farm produce. In one word, one of the sources of heat is the sun. And you know, what we use sun for drying clothes, for drying farm produce, and some other purposes. So sun is one of the sources of heat. Next one is fire. Say that. Good. Heat from fire is used for cooking and other purposes. You know, you use your fire for cooking. Maybe you are using your gas cooker, or you are using this kind of method of cooking. So you get fire. So fire is used for cooking and other purposes. So one of the sources of heat is also fire. Moving on to the next source of heat, and that is chemicals. Chemicals, when I don't know if you have experienced this before, when you take detergent, any detergent, and you put just little drop of water into it in your palm. What did you experience when you tried that before? You know that your palm will get hot. It will get hot. It will get hot. So when detergent mixed with water, it is produced. When detergent mixed with water, it is what is produced. That is chemicals. So chemicals is one of the sources of heat. Now, next one is electricity. Electrical energy can be converted to heat energy. When we add conversion of energy, electrical energy can be converted to heat energy. Like your oven, you know, when plugged, you get heat from it. Your electric iron, I think some of you are very familiar with this. When you plug it, you know, you get heat from that. Your electric stove, when you plug it, you get. So electricity is another source of heat. And the next one is friction. Friction. Now, let me just give you a typical example for that. I know some of you have tried this before. Your palms, when you rub it, okay, let's do that. Rub, faster, faster. I want you to rub it faster than I do mine here. Faster. Then to your cheek, you'll see that. What did you feel? Good. So that is friction, and you get heat. Is a source of energy. And even applying two machines together, friction mostly occur and you get heat. And what I'm saying in essence is that friction is also one of the sources of heat. So we have looked at the sources of heat. Just like when I started, I asked you to list the sources of heat. Now I ask you temperature, so let's treat that now. What is temperature? Temperature can be defined as the degree of hotness or coldness of an object or medium. Temperature can be defined as the degree of hotness or coldness of an object or medium. And I would like to correct this because we always believe that when we experience or we are experiencing heat, that's when we say there is temperature. Temperature is actually the degree of hotness or coldness. Do you understand? It's not only when you are experiencing it that you say there is temperature. It could be the degree of hotness, it could be the degree of coldness. So temperature can be defined as the degree of hotness or coldness of an object or medium. Hotness or coldness, degree of hotness or coldness. That's temperature. Now, The instrument used for measuring temperature, or temperature, is determined by the movement of particles that make up a substance because of the heat supplied. Temperature is determined by the movement of particles that make up a substance because of the heat supplied. The instrument used for measuring temperature is what? A bonus question to some of you, because you have been coming across this type of question. The instrument used for measuring temperature is known as thermometer. Good. That is the instrument, and we have different types. That's not our topic for today. But just take note that the instrument used for measuring temperature is thermometer. Now let's look at this different thermometer shown here. Let's move on to the differences between heat and temperature. Differences between heat and temperature. You've been told that heat is a form of energy and temperature is the degree of hotness or coldness of an object or medium. Now let's look at their differences. So let's look at the differences between heat and temperature. First one, heat is the total energy possessed by a substance, while temperature is the degree of particles. Heat is the total energy possessed by a substance. Temperature is the degree of particles. Next one is heat is a form of energy, while temperature is the quantity of energy. Temperature is the quantity of energy. Heat is a form of energy. Next one is heat does not depend on temperature, while temperature depends on heat energy. Let me explain here. It does not depend on temperature. That means there is no amount of temperature that we have here that will do the work of, or that will do the work of heat energy. It's not possible. There is no way you have temperature in this room and it will make your, let's assume you put your water in the room and you have temperature. It cannot boil that water. So that means heat does not depend on temperature, while temperature depends on heat. But when you put the water on the stove or lighted stove or electric stove, now the temperature will rise and the water will get boiled. So heat does not depend on temperature, while temperature depends on heat energy. Next one, heat can change the state of solid and liquid, while temperature cannot change the state of substance. Just like you have, let's say you have a solidified substance, maybe you have butter. When you put it on a lighter stove, it will change the state of that butter to liquid. Is in solid form before to liquid, but temperature cannot change the state of solid. There's no amount of temperature we have here that will do the work of that heat energy. So they are different. Just like your raw food, what heat energy will perform, temperature cannot do that. So heat can change the state of solid and liquid, but temperature cannot change the state of substance. These are the differences between heat and temperature. It's time for evaluation. So I have just simple questions, and the questions are 3. The first question, list any 3 sources of heat. Second question, what is temperature? And the third one, state 2 differences between heat and temperature. You have just 40 seconds to attempt this. Uncle Popo is here. Good. We are here together, so let's mark together. The first one, sources of heat, that should be A very simple question to you. We have sun, fire, chemicals, electricity, friction, just any three, you are correct. Temperature. Temperature can be defined as the degree of hotness or coldness of an object. Just like as I told you when we started that temperature is not only when you are feeling it. So temperature is the degree, it could be the degree of hotness or coldness of an object or medium. And two differences between heat and temperature. It is a form of energy, while temperature is the quantity of energy. It does not depend on temperature, while temperature depends on it. And these are the questions, so mark it accordingly and rate yourself. We have come to the end of today's lesson. Until next time, next lesson, Uncle Popo says, keep on studying. Bye.
My wonderful pupils, we have come to the end of another exciting episode on the Classroom in Your Home.
An exciting one indeed it has been for us, and we hope that it has been exciting for you as well, because we enjoyed ourselves learning with you today. Now remember that for you to be perfect at what you do, then you need to keep practicing and practicing. And to this end, we have structured some online tests for you to help to sharpen your skills in mathematics, English studies, and general studies. You can have access to these tests using the link bit.ly/LASUBEB tests. The link again is bit.ly/LASUBEB tests. I want to encourage you to take these tests, because that's the only way we can access how you're performing, so that we can help you to improve on your performance.
Taking the online assessment or online test is based on if you have access to either your daddy's, your mommy's, your uncle's, or your auntie's Android or smartphones. If not, there's no problem. Just send your questions, your comments, and your assignment to 08150865663. Please do not call that line. SMS and WhatsApp messages only. And when you're sending in your assignment, make sure you indicate your name,
Your school,
Your class,
and your local government education authority. That is the only way by which we can identify you and appraise you accordingly.
today's lessons and previous lessons are on Lagos Subeb YouTube channel for you to watch. Subscribe to Lagos Subeb YouTube channel to get notification when new videos are uploaded. The Classroom in Your Home could be watched live on Facebook, the same time airing on television through the page showing on the screen.
Until our next lesson, when we shall meet again on another beautifully packaged edition on the Classroom in Your Home, make sure you do your homework.
Wash your hands regularly.
keep practicing and working hard, but above all,
Stay safe.
At LASUBEB,
we
Leave no child behind.